Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of StarSound Speaks. This is your host, Irlianna Samsara, episode 107, adventure number 107. And what is the adventure of 107? It is the astrology of June. So as you know, the last two episodes, I've been talking about just the eclipse, and I am going to do that in probably the next episode. We'll wrap it up with just the solar eclipse because it is a grand event. But I just wanted to jump in here and give you, let's walk through lots of exciting things, not just the eclipses, of course, that is huge, but there's a lot of other major planetary parties going on. So let's just jump in and see what we got. Okay, busy month, but very, very fruitful. Okay, so this is June 3rd that I'm recording this. And guess what? Venus is in the sign of Cancer, and it is nurturing, loving Cancer, and it's making a trine with Jupiter. And just for a few days, but it's really beautiful and wonderful. I mean, Venus and Jupiter, the two benefics, right? In astrology, we talk about benefics and malefics, and in ancient astrology, and Venus and Jupiter, the lesser benefic and the greater benefic, in a trine like a triangle, and so that's a very lovely, positive blending of energies. And in ancient astrology, we know that trines are of the nature of Jupiter. So it's giving a lot of blessing and ease and abundance and positive, good, juicy, positive energy. So where might that show up? Well, we think about Cancer. The first thing I always think about is mothers, moms, and families, and homes, and pregnancies, and the home life. And Venus, and the gracious hostess, and trining Jupiter. Well, Jupiter can rule many things. It's not just religion and wisdom, but the law, the courts and the law. So there's probably a potential for very positive outcomes, when Venus and Jupiter trine. So make good use of that. It's a nice, juicy little transit. So yeah. Go forward. The law is on mercy, and the law are on your side if when you consider that in that respect. Okay, then we are, of course, heading into as the days progress into an opposition. Mars is not in its the best, easiest sign for Mars in Cancer, but it is heading into an opposition with Pluto because it's in the final degrees of its journey through Cancer. And I saw something in the news today that I'm going to pull up for just a moment here, and it's a great example of this Mars-Pluto opposition. Okay, of what the potential and then what's possible. So hold on just a second. So the opposition peaks this Sunday, the 6th. So what that might look like it's not an easy, right? Mars being malefic and in opposition with Pluto can look like a lot of major breakdowns, especially around perhaps our physical embodiment, vitality, but addressing deep core issues. So this is definitely a time where you might feel very challenged emotionally regarding your drive, your ambition, what you want to accomplish, your physical vitality. With Pluto and Capricorn, it's really pushing us to go to the root of, say, we have a health issue or something. We really have to examine deep, even like you could say family DNA patterns in our families, patterns in our culture, that have created a toxic environment. And what is that toxicity? And facing some hard truths about that. But to move through that, of course, the regeneration occurs when we face those truths. So for a person, if we are finding ourselves being rageful and all, we have to stop and breathe. We might see road rage. We might see some rudeness in behavior. When that energy is not channeled powerfully, it can really be, it's literally explosive, when you think about like a volcano just like letting loose. But again, be careful of that energy and use it wisely. Just use it use it in a way that will transform yourself. This is what is available to us, the potential for profound root level healing. is very prominent. So, and I would also say too, with Mars and Cancer, it's a lot of, we think about women's rights. And this is what I wanted to pull up. There was I just read about this today. There was a valedictorian. Did you hear about this? Got like millions of views on it went viral, but this valedictorian in Texas, she had 104.93 grade point average. Amazing, right? And she gets up to speak, and her speech was officially, approved and sanctioned, beforehand by the powers that be, right? The principal and such. But instead of delivering that speech, she started to talk about the heartbeat bill that was just passed in the Texas state legislature, which basically criminalizes women for having an abortion past the time of 6 weeks, or and sometimes a fatal heartbeat can be detected even sooner. So it cuts off people's rights in the state of Texas. And so she stood up and said, how this is, and even in the case of rape, too bad, that this is what the Texas law is saying. And so she feels very, obviously very confronted by that, and scared for that. What if my contraceptives don't work? What if I get raped? What's going to happen to my life? All my choices have been taken away from me. So this was only a few minutes long speech, but man, it was powerful. She delivered it really well, really great oratory. So if you have a chance, go look at that and look at that. But that is a perfect example of that Mars in Cancer opposing Pluto, right? This toxic patriarchal law, and fighting for the rights of women. Mars in Cancer, great use of Mars in Cancer, right? Fight for the rights of women, fight for the nurturing of ourselves, the taking care of ourselves, fight for healing. This is where to direct our passions and our courage. So anyway, just happened to see that and wanted to share. Mars in the, it can also be very cathartic. Pluto is a lot about secrets, and I'm watching the headlines with the Matt Gaetz sex scandal, the whole thing about, being his wingman, as he called himself. He sang to the feds and officially entered a plea bargain. Of course, it was the day that the Mars activation of last year's eclipse, there it was, middle of May, to the very day. However, the wagons are circling around him, and it's not looking pretty. But again, maybe more secrets revealed around, sex trafficking, youth trafficking, the Me Too era, the Pluto and Capricorn, very deep Me Too kind of, between Me Too, rights of women, and then the eclipse is happening in Gemini and Sag, right? Youth trafficking is a big, the darkness that's getting revealed, right? And there's this connections with the highest, right, in Capricorn, right? These high-ranking members of society, government and politicians, right? So there's all that being played out. So I think we definitely, you can almost count on it that there being some kind of an announcement or some more developments and revealments along the way between the eclipses and the Mars-Pluto opposition. We're seeing a lot more secrets coming out with, like, say, the dark underbelly of society. All right, so moving on, we have, of course, our solar eclipse, which I'll do that final part 3, the solar eclipse in Gemini, 19 degrees of Gemini. So if you have any planets in around 16 to 22 degrees of Gemini, Virgo, Pisces, or Sag, this is definitely going to be a very profound eclipse. Just as Mercury, which is the lord of this eclipse, right? The lord is retrograde. And I thought about the symbology of that the other day. So not only is Mercury in its home sign of Gemini, but he's retrograde. I say he, but I don't mean that it's a male energy. I'm just assigning it to, okay? We have all of these things in all of us, of course. But Mercury is Kazemi, will be at that solar eclipse. So he's standing in the throne room. So he's getting reprogrammed and reinvented, like radically outrageous ideas. And I find it really interesting and wonderful that this is happening in the month of June, is Pride Month in the LGBT community. So all of this is happening, very, very ripe time for transformation. So I'm finding that really interesting because Mercury's in that room of light. He's under, right in the throne room of the sun, blinded by the light. You know, it's like Moses going up on Mount Sinai, download, right? Reprogramming. So we are getting this cosmic download, all of us. And it's only going to benefit us. It's going to loosen up and allow us to reach and connect in maybe new and greater ways, and being willing to listen and open to each other's and other points of view. So this is a really, really potent time and a potent eclipse. I would say too, with Mercury, you know, Mercury rules PR and advertising, marketing, selling. So a new moon solar eclipse in that sign, let's rethink how we promote ourselves. Let's rethink how we share and network and market our businesses. This is a really great time to start and review and revise the ways we have done it, and now a new way of being, new ways drop in. I have to say, and I'm not ready to talk about what it was, but I had a major, with my my dear friend the other day, I had a major a cathartic moment myself and I'm really, oh, here's the eclipse, and here's the area of my life that, okay, communications, you know, I was wondering, oh, when's that thing gonna drop? Well, let me tell you, like, oh, the universe forgot about me. Ha ha, right? No, doesn't forget anybody. Had some major revealments, which again, I will talk about after eclipse season, because got to get all these revealments. Don't forget, these are times when we want to let these energies settle. It's very much the Maytag spin cycle in the washing machine, right? So you may have this, I had this outrageous revealment last week, but I knew better than to jump and start working on it. I'm like, okay, just breathe, right? Just breathe and let more pieces fall into place. So it's a process. So I'm learning patience. So there's that. So yeah, so marketing, selling, all things like that, you know, rules commerce and merchants and buying and selling and trading and data and information, right? Those are all mercurial things. So that's going to be really wonderful, a really very potent solar eclipse. Okay, then June 11th, Mars leaves its 6-week sojourn in Mars in Cancer, where it was in, you know, that's not the easiest place for Mars, right? But it makes do, you know, you make a silk purse from a sow's ear, as my grandmother used to say. And you can do very well with that. Now Mars moves into Leo. So that's a very strong vital sign. So it'll pick up a lot more of its yang energy, right? And fire, right? Fixed fire, man. Mars is like muscle, you know, get me to the king. And I am the king, right? It can be a little bit much, but hey, you know, it's like taking the lessons and the experiences that it learned, understanding women, right? Mars in Cancer, understanding the feminine principle, and now moving that forward, bringing that into the next phase, which is Mars in Leo. So Leo rules vitality, generosity, friends, you know, just creative pursuits, boldness, courage, vision. So a lot of vitality around, say, if you're in business, a vitality around shouting who you are from the rooftops, right? Creative pursuits, the lion's roar, you know, it's time to shine and bring that out. So that'll be a 6-week, there are about 6 weeks that Mars goes through a sign. Then June 14th, we have Saturn and Uranus will square again. So we've been talking about that. Of course, that's like the big deal all year, is this Saturn-Uranus square. So it happened in early January, and now it's happening, peaking June 14th, and then it'll peak again at the end of the year. So that is really calling us to be very astute with how we progress, be wise, be mature. It's a great time if you're a feisty little rebel. You know what? Get a wise person. Get an old hippie who remembered Stonewall, who remembered, you know, the Chicago National Convention in 1968. I don't know, you know, who found profound activist members, Tiananmen Square, you know, and any progressive, democratic, progressive, and I say democratic with a small d, okay, the principle of democracy where everyone has a voice. This is a very powerful time to get mentored in how to make lasting change. This is definitely what it's calling us to do. We want change, but we have to be smart about it, and we can't be brash and impulsive. So if you think about the people who raided the Capitol when that was starting to peak, when the first Saturn-Uranus square, and so these people that were angry, I mean, people were killed, right? This is not the way to do it. You want to change government, you don't show up with spears and attack people and create a mob scene. Yes, I know you're angry, but that's rash, impulsive behavior. It's not going to be lasting. If you really want change, you've got to be patient, you got to be wise, and you got to plan it and have it last. So this one day of mayhem, it had a huge, huge effect. Very, very tragic. So we go back to the drawing board. Saturn's in retrograde. It's like, okay, let's rethink this. How do we want to proceed? And are we willing to be patient? Saturn demands focus, discipline, and patience, that things don't happen overnight. Great things, you want great and lasting change, like it's Pride Month, and we want there was all these rollbacks with transgender female athletes being in certain states, being banned and from like high school sports and things, and you feel like, oh gosh, it's a rollback. But that Saturn-Uranus square is engaging, and it's saying, wait a minute, we have to push on, and sometimes there's that pushback. But with Saturn retrograde, I would expect to see many of these laws and measures being challenged and being rewritten and rethought, right? Or rethinking these things. So all is not over, we have, it's a process, and there's that a tug of war that kind of conflicts. But of course, we want to step back from the fray and just stay in our center and see, what lesson is being taught here. What do we have to learn? So that's around the middle of the month. And then, and I would say too, I remember Osho, the great mystic Osho, said, if something looks contradictory to us, it's because we're not looking deep enough. So ultimately, everything comes from one source. And if we see things in polarity or contradicting each other, it's because we're not looking on the deep mystical level. Something to chew on, right? Just thought I'd drop that in there. Okay. Let's see. So yeah, the formula: avoid rash and reckless behavior, be a mentor to youth and activists, or get mentored, depending on where you're at. So and always remember too, the universe is always conspiring on our behalf. It's always, even though we see setbacks, just use them as an opportunity for what can I learn here, right? And be patient and look at that in a really measured way, and not going off the deep end and getting angry and rageful and chaotic. Let's see. So then we have our solar, our solstice is going to be June 21st. So it'll be winter solstice if you're a New Zealander or an Aussie or a South African or such, or it is the summer solstice in the Northern Hemisphere. That's going to be a cool, right around that time, the planet Jupiter, which rules, abundance, and it's ruling our south node eclipses. It's going to go retrograde at the end of June. And for a few months, it'll be retrograde. It's at 2 degrees of Pisces right now, and it's going to eventually step back and revisit Aquarius, turn around in October, and sweep forward again. So from those months, we'll be having the last of its transit through Jupiter in Aquarius. So revisiting, revisiting all themes, social justice themes, and again, revising, reviewing, reflecting on perhaps legal matters regarding a more humanitarian, unity conscious society. Let's see, we've got June 23rd and 24th, Venus is going to come into an opposition with Pluto. And that is, when I think about Venus, not just the divine feminine, but like the grace and the dignity and like the healing balm, the healing salve that, think of Pluto being this like atomic, radioactivity. The aloe vera is Venus, right? So offering some kind of peace and grace, to perhaps these very deeply rooted, very things that might have come up cathartically this time of the month, early June. Things like that will have an opportunity to have some mercy or grace or some healing balm applied to that process. So that's going to be happening when around June 23rd, 24th. I also see that too in the collective. It could be because it's the end of the month, with Venus in Cancer, you think of homes and home living. And when I think about the people who might be the rent moratoriums and all the rent crisis, the rent revolution, as some are calling it, is definitely heated up. And it might be, this is a time to really address that again, very powerfully, thinking about women and children and living situations and how we can fundamentally change laws that don't support us in that manner. Let us see. Is that all for today? I think it is, by golly. All right. So I hope you, there's a little wrap up. That's for June. And like I said, I'll be coming back again, with part 3 of that wrap up of the solar eclipse. But just to let you know too, I really felt my mother today. I was having a lesson, learning French, and I had a lesson with my lovely teacher on Skype, and I was talking, she asked me about my family and all, so I'm practicing my conversation skills. And then I talked about my mom and how she passed, but I know she's still with me. And I started telling her the story about how my mother visited my friend recently. And as I did, I started crying to my teacher, and she's like, oh, and I had to like interrupt myself and go blow my nose, go to the bathroom and get some tissue. But it was really, it helped me remember how love is so eternal, and no matter what, these planetary movements come and go and ebb and flow, and fortunes ebb and flow, but life and love is eternal. And so I brought her in. My mother is here. My mother is here, right? Yeah, Mom, see, I'm wearing makeup because you're Libra, gotta wear makeup. Oh, look nice. Oh, you got to put a little rouge on, or some mascara at least, We always joked about that. Yes, of course. I would not dare show up on YouTube without makeup. Oh my God, no way. But anyway, she is with me, and I just feel so great to know that. I'm going to start crying again. So, oh my God, Venus in Cancer. But anyway, so just to say, if you need help, and I'll just call my mother, okay, Miriam, you can call her Aunt Miriam. I mean, Irlianna's mother, call her help. She loves to fuss over people. So if you need help, and if you need help, somebody to listen to and take your vitamins, did you wear your warm coat, or did you, these the mother things, right? She's really great at that, the moon in Cancer. Just know that you can always call my mother. She's got plenty of time in her hands. She needs projects, loves to help people, always did here and still is. So anyway, from my heart to yours, just to share that with you. Help is here, and especially with that Mars-Pluto, right? Don't fight, be peaceful, make nice. With the Mars-Pluto opposition, there's always a way through. So anyway, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this. Please leave your comments below in the section. I'd love to know how you're doing with all these dynamic transits, and through eclipse season too, eclipse breakdowns, breakthroughs. So, all right, that's all for today. This is Irlianna Samsara, StarSound Speaks, StarSound Astrology, doing eclipse readings too. If you need help with that, please contact me. Natal, comprehensive natal reading, or focused on one area of your chart. The eclipses, certainly, please, call on me. Just zip me an email, and we'll take care of it. So anyway, thank you so much for listening, and you have a very, very blessed month of June. Namaste.